What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for Clickheads. Every other week, the Valorant developers do a Q&A answering some of our most burning questions. This week, we'll be breaking down aim, punch, deathmatch, a pick and ban system, and more. And if you want to get your question possibly responded to by the developers, you can respond to their thread on Twitter. Starting it off, will there be a deathmatch mode being added to Valorant? The devs answer that deathmatch is absolutely coming, but they don't have a timetable on it yet. They say, quote, it's something where we're actively working on the underlying technology as well as designing, iterating, prototyping, and playtesting right now. The first thing that comes to my mind as being a major issue with this type of mode is a respawn system, because they already have most of the other things worked out, right? Gun mechanics, movement, all that. In many games, respawns can be a nightmare, and if they're not properly developed, it can be hard to get any enjoyment out of the mode whatsoever. For example, deathmatch modes in Counter-Strike have specific server settings that attempt to alleviate this glaring weakness in the mode by, for example, making you immune when you first spawn until you start moving, but it's quite a band-aid fix, and you would rather it flow normally without having to overcompensate for a bad respawn system. That's just my guess, though. I can't imagine what else they'd be struggling to put together to make it work. Hopefully, with the extra time put in, they can create it to be a very fluid experience, but in the meantime, Riot, can we please just get gun game as well? No one's gonna be mad if you add multiple modes at the same time. Please, this filthy casual needs his favorite mode in the game. Next question, the devs get asked about any plans to change aim punch, as in each weapon getting a different amount of aim punch. The devs respond saying not at the moment, but I do think there's an opportunity to lessen aim punch in extreme cases. For example, a long fire from a pistol or shotgun that is inflicting minimal damage with lots of fall off. So in that specific case, they're talking about just barely hitting any damage into the head from miles away from a shotgun or classic that does like nothing, but is still aim punching you the same amount as anything else. That might get tuned. I think this is a fairly important gameplay mechanic because it makes some of the eco or force buy weapons better than they probably should be. And although the top level meta is always going to be rifles and ops, for lower levels of play, like where I play at, you can get away with a lot more off-meta weapons and force buy weapons, partially due to the aim punch mechanic. And one area that they dealt with this in a good way in the recent patch is when they tuned down the tagging system in patch 1.02, where you used to get extremely slowed by any bit of damage. This aim punch mechanic is quite similar in the same way that reducing tagging really buffed up aggressive play in the metagame. Nerfing this will also help widen the gap between the full buy and force buy weapons. This next question is a big one. Will there be a pick and ban system with agents and maps? They respond, we've considered a draft phase for agents, but the current thinking is that we would not have bans. For some more reasoning about bans, first, we expect teams to have set plays and strategies that require very specific agents. Banning an agent would invalidate that strategy, and we don't want to discourage practice. Second, bans often remove a player's star agent, and we want players who are exceptional at certain agents to be able to play them and show off their skills with them. Finally, because Valorant doesn't have hard counters in the form of agents, this isn't our design philosophy, we think that the game state is healthier if we're held accountable to ensuring no agent or agent-facilitated strategy becomes so oppressive or unsolvable that a ban is the only choice. Now, notably, they didn't say anything about map bans here. This is just about agent bans. They have spoke about map bans in different contexts and have said repeatedly that Valorant is a game where you need to learn multiple maps. You're not going to get a select the exact map you want to queue for system like they do in CSGO, but I would say that I really liked the Face It system where you had a team captain that voted the map bans for you, and you did a map draft, just like the pros would, where you want to pick and ban maps out. And I would imagine if they ever get a tournament system in-game, I mean, data miners have already leaked that they're working on this, and there might be internal code already beginning for it. They've already kind of hinted it as well. I think it's coming for sure down the line, but I would imagine a map ban system would have to be present in that for it to make any sense. As for agent bans, though, at the moment, I would say I'm down to let them attempt their strategy to balance their way out of these situations. The only problem is that if you don't have bans, there's always going to be a reliable must-pick type agent that just has too much value to pass up. So funnily enough, in the most recent NA tournament, the T1 Nerd Street Invitational, Cypher had a 100% pick rate, and Brimstone and Sage are up there with him, but because there are some times where you can either replace Brimstone with an Omen or drop Sage for the map Ascent in order to deal with the op angles and run double controllers to have enough smokes to block off those lines of sight, there's a few situations where key maps see meta agents get dropped out. But at the same time, we're still seeing Cypher on every map, basically. And I think the reason is, even when you have a Raze or a Sova who are the best at countering his traps, he still gets a guaranteed amount of value at base point. No matter what, if they have to use utility to break your utility, you're not at a disadvantage picking Cypher. So I can't really imagine a world where Cypher would all of a sudden be bad. To try to add to this discussion usefully, I just want to state that there's only so much balance can do. We have to be realistic about our expectations of having no bans and expecting to balance our way out of a problem or a stagnant meta, whereas bans at least opens up the opportunity for the players to break the mold of that. There also is the other worry too, where if defensive style agents get banned, we don't know if we like the meta that comes after that. Like if Cypher or Sage or Brim get banned, maybe we get in this frag-tastic duelist meta where the best way to play is rushing at the opponent nonstop, and it starts to lose the set-piece tactical feel that I think Valorant wants to have. And there's a chance bans gives us wackier gameplay than we otherwise planned for, even if it does technically add diversity to the game. So I understand their answer. However, I would say this conversation becomes a lot easier to have after we have like a year of adding a new agent every 2 months. That's a super rapid pace. So at least by then, I would hope they would reconsider it. There is some credence to their argument about teams preparing strategies with specific agents. This is one of the major counter arguments to a resistance to the same type of ban system in a game like Overwatch, where in the same way, you want to create strategies that work for you on a map. And if you ban out a hero or agent on that map, you have to have so many different contingency plans for that playstyle that it just increases the workload of pro teams exponentially. Completely valid point, but at the same time, viewers and fans of the game don't like stale metas or metas that suck. So, for example, if they didn't balance the clog meta correctly, I might be championing bans a lot harder, but they just kept nerfing Sage, reined in Cypher a bit, and made some changes like to tagging to help aggression work a bit more, and now I think we have a pretty balanced metagame, at least as much as we could ask for, I think. With a couple star agents, a couple fill agents, and a couple niche agents, everyone's seeing some experimentation, and that's about as much as you can ask for, I think. And by the way, if you're enjoying this video, why don't you hit it with a subscribe? You can click the bell icon to get notified when our videos go live directly to your cell phone. It's the best way to keep up to date on the latest Valorant news and strategies. We'd appreciate it. Thanks. A couple small questions left on the Q&A. They get asked, are there plans to make Valorant a non-full screen application? League of Legends fans may have preferred this, being used to the way League does it, where there is a menu window and the game launches separately. But the devs say that they have no plans to do that because Valorant is an all-in-one executable. So the best you can do is put the game into windowed or windowed full screen mode. Last question for the Q&A, they get asked, will it be possible to play with other regions? For example, playing NA while being on EU. And the devs answer in saying that it's pretty bad for connections to have anybody play cross-region, because of course, one player from out of region affects the entire lobby's connection. Everybody will have a bit more of a laggy experience due to that one player messing up with the netcode, and that's unfair to them. So they prefer to keep matches fair, but they do hear that perhaps players want to play with friends across regions. I will note, you already can do this, but you have to create a new account in that region. And yes, the connection is harder to play on, so it is not advised whatsoever. But if your friends, for example, play in the UK, maybe you put up with it, since of course this game is best played when with friends. Last up for the news video, I wanted to cover this Dotesports article showing all the leaked Valorant skins and bundles. This Drips collection comes courtesy of everybody's favorite data miner Floxy, where you can get an op bulldog or sheriff coated in gold with a little bit of regal red on the handles. The Blast X collection has been leaked as well. This one is going to make your guns look like a Nerf blaster from what I can tell. Yet unreleased skins for the Frenzy Spectre, but there is one for the Phantom. And while we're waiting around for new skins, there's also a whole host of skins that were in the beta that Riot is holding out on us to release for some reason. And everybody's waiting to get these skins back. This comes from the Valorant Fandom Wiki website, and this toy collection was really popular in the beta as the guns are themed like the original Nintendo blaster, the NES Zapper. The Imperium collection turns your classic pistol into a dragon and has similar looks on the knife. I had this one. It was pretty cool in the beta. Ronin as well looks pretty mean with bright red and gold styling, making your guns look as expensive as these skins cost. And the fan favorite Reaver collection has sort of a twisted edgelord fix to it. A lot of gothic sharp angles and a deep purple and metallic aesthetic. I remember the upgraded animations on these were particularly nice. And the Lux collection, pretty solid as well. Pretty much just the red version of the Prism collection that we got. And perhaps you just like red more than blue. I do like this one a bit more because there's more metal showing, whereas the $50 Prism collection was a little basic. I believe it was said at the time that the developers wanted to hold off the beta skins to try to work on them a bit more. With content drops being pretty regular now, and the battle pass coming through every 2 months, you've got to think that they actually have a bigger stockpile of skins, as they're going to start running out of options pretty quick if they don't. And, well, with it being the major way they're making money on this game, you got to imagine that they're just working around the clock to produce these. But that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on agent bans. Is it something you want to see in Valorant to radically change up the gameplay? Or do you perhaps like the more stable approach where they patch the game regularly combined with new agent releases every 2 months? Every section of the game or act can have its own gameplay personality and internal meta. I can settle for that. It's not like Overwatch that had 6 months to a year of one meta that nobody liked. I think Valorant is relatively safe from that happening unless a new agent just completely breaks the game. But if Reyna and Raze have yet to do that, I can't really imagine an agent that would, but I don't mean to test Riot and try their hardest to apply that theory. Be interested to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out. Lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter. Hit us a follow on there. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for Clickheads. We'll see you guys next time.